Hey, good afternoon. Happy spring. Whew, it's a lot warmer than it should be. It's still March and I should be in a parka and a beanie with gloves, but climate change. I wanted to share with you a little teaching that I received from Thunder Bear recently. He and I go riding together a lot, and oh gosh, we can talk about everything. We can talk about our favorite mini-series and what it's like to raise kids and all that kind of thing. But sometimes he will let creep out a little teaching, and I'm always wishing that there was a recorder on when that happens. He's very humble, and he would never impose anything or assume anything at all. He would never assume, for example, that I don't know something. He would just never do that. So when it comes, I want to share it. So yesterday we went for a ride, and it was one of those moments. So I want to give you a little setup, a little context, so it all kind of makes sense. So I've been, some of you that know me and are close to me know that I've been slowly moving into the side of the house at the ranch where my mother used to live. And I've been kind of packing up my boxes and moving over to that side of the house, and we're going to be the side of the house that I was living in and where I did a lot of work in is now known as the Buffalo House, and it's going to be a place where clients stay if they are working with me. So little side note, if you want to come to Santa Fe and work with me or Thunder Bear or one of our practitioners, then you're free to stay at the Buffalo House rather than one of our partner accommodations. And then you're right there in the thick of it with the horses and the donkeys and the cats and the dogs, the sunset and the sunrise and the stars and the buffalo spirit that lives there. Anyway, so I was telling him that I've been moving out of what was my office, and we've turned that into a session room. And it's a kind of training room with weights and yoga mats and stuff, but also it's a session room for any of our practitioners to come and do work on our clients. And big shout out to our 3 practitioners. That would be Marianne Menetree, who does orthobionomy, and Diane Westwater, who is an amazing body worker, and Heather Giles, who does, I don't even know what to call it. It's like soul retrieval. It's amazing, amazing work. So anyway, Heather had mentioned, and I'm sorry that there's wind. I need to get a better microphone situation. Heather had mentioned that she really preferred doing her sessions in the barn and not in the session room. And I said to Thunder Bear while we were riding, geez, I wonder why that is. I've cleansed the room, I've smudged it, I've done ceremony to prepare it, I've rung bells and done incantations, the whole thing, just to cleanse that room because it was an office. And he was quiet for a minute. He said, do you think something could be too clean and too good? And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, do you think something could be too clean and too good? And I knew he was teeing up. He asked the question because he's respectful, but he was teeing something up. And I said, what do you mean too clean, too good? And he said, well, in my culture, we say it's really important that things aren't too good or too clean, because then it's out of balance. You need, there's other aspects to the natural world that have to play their part. And I said, well, tell me more. And he said, well, like, for example, a rock. He goes, look at the rocks. Like, sometimes they're high in the mountain, and sometimes they tumble down into the bottom of a well or the bottom of the ocean, but they don't discriminate about, sorry, I've got my dogs and I'm wrapped around a leash. They don't discriminate between, like, oh, the top of the mountain is better and more pure, and the bottom of the well is, like, not good. He said they are happy to be where they are. And some days they're rubbed smooth and polished and shiny, and some days they're rough and gravelly. And that whole balance is important. And so I said, oh, so, like, maybe the barn felt better for Heather because, and I have to ask her, of course, but because, like, there's some dust in the barn, and it's not so polished in there. It's not like a polished Zen session space, and he goes, yeah. And I said, so is the point to kind of maybe have some grit? And he goes, well, just some neutral spaces. It doesn't all have to be good. It can be neutral, so it can just find its right alignment. So I thought about it for a second, and then I said, well, so, I just came from teaching our class, Assertiveness for Life and Leadership, and I just finished teaching that class that day. And it had been a hard class because what was being surfaced was Molly, was just, all the ways that people were allowing others to treat them poorly. And this class tends to attract sensitive people, or people who are very empathic, people who really care. And so very often folks like that can attract personalities that are more takers than givers. So it was just a hard class that morning because we were surfacing those dynamics. So I was kind of mentioning that to Thunder Bear, and that I was sort of feeling that a bit heavy with that. Thunder Bear said, yeah, it's probably because all of y'all are too good. And I was like, too good. Too good. He goes, yeah, you need some grit, you need some grit. You've been taught to be too good. And, I don't know about you, but I was given so much. I was given a lot of praise for being good. Straight A student, showed up well in the family. I was a good girl, a good partner, a good friend, a good, all this good stuff. And it was really prized and really emphasized. So when you have that muscle of goodness overdeveloped, then it's problematic. So of course I said, well, tell me more, Thunder Bear. And he said, well, more leash. Yeah, y'all need some badger energy. I said, badger energy. Tell me about that. And he goes, well, you think about badgers. By the way, this is all on the back of two horses. It's so fun. You think about a badger, like, he's small and he's not going to bother you, but if you cross a line, that badger is going to bare his teeth, and they make a really intense sound, and they have long nails, long claws, and sharp teeth, and whoo, you do not want a badger bite. You do not want a badger bite. He says, y'all need more badger. So I'm going to tell the assertiveness class this, but my question to you is, are you just a little too good? Could you use some badger medicine? Could you bare your teeth more? I don't know, I just really, I suddenly have this wonderful feeling about badger and bringing that energy in, just to sharpen my claws and bring some grit into my psychic space, my psycho-emotional space. And maybe you resonate with this being good. And I love this poem, right? This poem by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to drag yourself on your knees through the desert. It's something like that. You don't have to drag yourself for 1,000 miles in the desert on your knees. So I just want to echo Mary Oliver's words. You do not have to be good. You do not have to repent for 1,000,000 years over your human foibles. And in fact, you can be some badger. You know, you can bare your teeth, you can bare your claws, and just not put up with stuff that doesn't belong to come your way. Like, don't let it happen. And kind of with Thunder Bear's invitation, you know, let there be some parts, you know, not that are bad, but that are just not good. You know, good as in too good. Like, just let some other stuff come in. Let some grit come in to your days, to your conversations, to your space. So here in northern New Mexico, a lot of the traditional folks talk about animals bringing a medicine. And today, on this spring day, as I think about how we are domesticated to be good citizens, good people, good partners, good humans, to be good. And while the powers that be are anything but good, and they create this double standard where we have to adhere by all the rules and be good citizens, but they don't have to, which is bullcrap. I bring to you the possibility to let badger medicine into your life. The scrappy, scruffy, you know, toothy badger. Have a great day.